Ethan Carter adjusted the cuffs of his navy blue suit as he stood outside the entrance of the Grand Meridian Hotel. The jacket was neatly pressed but clearly several years old. Most people arriving at the charity gala stepped out of luxury cars wearing custom-made designer clothing and expensive watches. Ethan arrived in a clean but ordinary sedan that attracted no attention. Beside him stood his 8-year-old daughter, Lily, wearing a simple light blue dress with white shoes and her brown hair tied into a neat ponytail. She looked up at the enormous building with wide, curious eyes. "Are you nervous, Dad?" she asked softly. Ethan smiled as he gently squeezed her hand. "A little. But whenever I'm nervous, I remember that being kind is always enough." Lily nodded, trying to hide her own excitement. She had never attended an event like this before. Crystal lights shone through the tall glass windows, and elegant music floated into the evening air as guests walked inside. Men and women laughed together while photographers captured every important arrival. The doorman welcomed Ethan with the same professional smile he offered every guest. Ethan thanked him warmly before entering the magnificent ballroom with Lily by his side. The room sparkled beneath enormous crystal chandeliers. White flowers decorated every table, and a string orchestra played soft classical music from a raised platform. Servers moved gracefully through the crowd carrying silver trays filled with sparkling drinks and carefully prepared appetizers. Every detail reflected luxury. Lily quietly admired everything around her. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "It certainly is," Ethan replied. "But never forget that beautiful places don't always reveal beautiful hearts." She looked at him thoughtfully before smiling. Guests noticed Ethan almost immediately. His calm expression contrasted sharply with the confident displays of wealth surrounding him. Some assumed he was an employee who had wandered into the wrong room. Others guessed he had been invited by mistake. Quiet whispers spread through nearby conversations. "Do you know him? I've never seen him before. Maybe someone's assistant." Ethan heard the comments but ignored them. Instead, he focused entirely on Lily, making sure she felt comfortable. A waiter approached with a tray of fruit juice. "Would the young lady like some apple juice?" he asked kindly. "Yes, please," Lily answered politely. "Thank you," Ethan added with genuine appreciation. The waiter smiled before continuing through the crowd. Not far away, Isabella Monroe stood speaking with several executives from Sterling Dynamics. At 34 years old, she had built a reputation as one of the company's most ambitious leaders. Wearing an elegant black evening gown and diamond earrings, she carried herself with absolute confidence. Tonight was supposed to be the biggest night of her career. Sterling Dynamics had spent months negotiating a partnership valued at $1 billion. The final agreement depended entirely on the approval of Carter Global Holdings. The mysterious owner of the investment company had refused every interview and rarely appeared in public. Even many business leaders had never met him. "We're finally going to meet him tonight," one executive said confidently. "I've heard he arrives with security everywhere," another replied. "Probably surrounded by assistants. Someone worth billions never walks alone." Isabella smiled confidently. "Whoever he is, he'll recognize professionalism." Across the ballroom, Ethan and Lily slowly admired the decorations. Lily stopped beside a large display of white roses arranged around an elegant fountain. "They're so pretty." "They are," Ethan agreed. "Someone worked very hard to make tonight special." Lily noticed several children looking at her from another table but seemed too shy to approach them. Ethan knelt beside her. "You don't have to impress anyone tonight. I'm just worried they won't like me. The right people will always like you for who you are." She smiled and hugged him tightly. Nearby, several executives continued observing Ethan. "He looks completely out of place. Maybe security should check his invitation. I wonder who invited him." Their voices remained low, but Ethan heard enough to understand exactly what they thought. He simply smiled, refusing to let judgment affect his mood. Instead, he walked toward a large window overlooking the city skyline. Lily joined him, amazed by the thousands of lights stretching into the distance. "It's like the stars are on the ground," she said. "That's a beautiful way to see it." As they stood together, Ethan quietly reflected on everything that had brought him here. Years earlier, after losing his wife, he had promised himself that no amount of success would ever change the values they had shared. Money could build companies, but character built families. Raising Lily had become his greatest achievement, far more meaningful than any business victory. Tonight's gala was important, but not because of the billion-dollar agreement waiting to be signed. It was important because Ethan believed every partnership should begin with trust and respect. Financial success meant little if people forgot how to treat one another. Around the ballroom, conversations continued about the mysterious billionaire who had not yet arrived. Executives checked their watches while organizers whispered into communication devices. Excitement grew with every passing minute. No one looked twice at the quiet single father standing peacefully beside his daughter near the window. No one imagined that the man listening patiently to his little girl's dreams was the founder, chairman, and sole owner of Carter Global Holdings. The guest everyone was anxiously waiting to meet had already been inside the ballroom all along. The ballroom grew even livelier as more distinguished guests arrived. Conversations flowed between executives discussing investments, expansion plans, and the highly anticipated billion-dollar partnership that everyone expected would be announced before the evening ended. A string quartet continued playing softly while servers moved gracefully through the crowd carrying silver trays filled with sparkling water, fruit juices, and glasses of red wine. Ethan Carter remained near one side of the ballroom with Lily. Rather than joining the circles of influential business leaders, he listened patiently as his daughter admired the elegant decoration surrounding them. "Dad, look at those flowers," Lily said, pointing toward an enormous arrangement of white lilies and roses beside the stage. "They're beautiful," Ethan replied. "Someone spent many hours creating them. I wish Mom could have seen this." For a brief moment, silence settled between them. Ethan gently placed his hand on Lily's shoulder. "I think she would be happiest seeing you smile." Lily nodded, fighting back emotion before offering her father another small smile. Across the room, Isabella Monroe continued greeting guests with polished confidence. She had spent months preparing for this event and believed everything needed to appear absolutely perfect. Every guest represented an opportunity, and every detail reflected on sterling dynamics. While speaking with senior executives, she noticed Ethan once again. Her expression tightened. "Who invited that man?" she quietly asked one of the event coordinators. "I'm not certain," the coordinator admitted. "He doesn't look like one of our executives. I haven't checked the guest list personally." Isabella watched Ethan laugh softly as Lily pointed toward the orchestra. Their relaxed behavior irritated her. "This evening is too important for unexpected surprises," she muttered. Nearby executives glanced toward Ethan. "He certainly doesn't fit the crowd. Maybe he's waiting for someone. Or maybe he entered through the wrong door." Their assumptions continued spreading through quiet conversations. Meanwhile, Ethan noticed Lily staring at a table filled with elegant desserts. "May I look?" she asked. "Of course." They walked together toward the beautifully decorated dessert display. A pastry chef smiled warmly. "Please help yourselves." Lily looked toward her father before taking a small chocolate pastry. "Thank you." The chef smiled. "You're very welcome." As they stepped away, Ethan thanked the chef for his kindness. Simple moments like these mattered far more to him than expensive surroundings. At another table, Isabella accepted a crystal glass filled with red wine while continuing conversations with potential partners. She remained confident that the evening would secure Sterling Dynamics' future. One executive asked, "Have you finally met Mr. Carter?" Not yet, Isabella answered. Apparently he prefers dramatic entrances. Everyone laughed politely. I've heard he's extremely demanding. I've heard he's impossible to impress. Whoever he is, Isabella replied confidently, he'll appreciate excellence. Several photographers requested pictures of company executives. Isabella posed gracefully before returning to her discussions. A few minutes later, Ethan and Lily slowly approached a large display showing the history of the charity foundation benefiting from tonight's fundraising event. Lily quietly read stories about children receiving educational support. I like this, she said. So do I. They're helping families. That's why we're here. As Ethan spoke, Isabella walked across the ballroom carrying her wine while speaking with another executive. She remained focused on the conversation rather than watching where she was going. At nearly the same moment, another guest unexpectedly turned around after greeting a colleague. His shoulder lightly brushed Isabella's arm. The movement was small but enough to disturb the balance of her wine glass. The glass tilted sharply. Deep red wine splashed across Ethan's navy suit. Drops stained his jacket, shirt, and tie before falling onto the polished marble floor. The surrounding conversation stopped almost instantly. Several nearby guests gasped. Lily stared silently at her father's stained clothing. For a brief second, everyone expected Isabella to apologize. Instead, she looked Ethan up and down before speaking with a cold expression. Perhaps this is a reminder that some places require a certain standard. Several nearby executives exchanged uncomfortable glances. Someone quietly laughed. Another guest whispered, "That's embarrassing." Lily lowered her eyes, clearly hurt by the remark. Ethan looked down at the wine soaking into his jacket. Then he calmly removed it without showing even the slightest frustration. He folded the stained jacket over one arm before accepting a clean napkin from a nearby waiter. "Thank you," Ethan said sincerely. The waiter nodded respectfully. "I'm very sorry, sir." "No harm done." Ethan carefully wiped the remaining drops from his shirt while maintaining complete composure. Lily looked up at him. "Dad." He smiled gently. "It's all right. But your suit. It's only fabric." She remained silent. Ethan knelt slightly so he could speak at her eye level. "Do you remember what we always say?" Lily nodded slowly. "Things can be replaced. And kindness? Kindness cannot." He smiled proudly. "Exactly." Several guests overheard the conversation and quietly looked away, suddenly uncomfortable with what had happened. Even some Sterling Dynamics executives appeared uneasy. Isabella folded her arms, still believing she had done nothing wrong. The ballroom felt strangely quiet. The orchestra had stopped playing. Guests whispered among themselves, wondering why the ordinary-looking single father seemed completely unaffected by public embarrassment. His calm dignity made the situation feel even more uncomfortable. Just then, bright lights illuminated the stage. The master of ceremonies stepped confidently to the microphone. He smiled as he looked across the silent ballroom. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, "thank you for your patience. The moment we have all been waiting for has finally arrived." Every conversation immediately stopped. The founder and owner of Carter Global Holdings has just arrived. Hundreds of eyes turned toward the ballroom entrance, eagerly waiting to see the billionaire whose signature would determine the future of the historic $1 billion partnership. No one realized the person they were waiting for was already standing quietly in the middle of the ballroom beside his daughter, holding a folded, wine-stained jacket.